Okay, I'm going to do some prospects from Columbus all the way to Montreal. Just a few that I think might make the NHL and maybe some roles that they could play. So for Columbus, Zach Werenski, who played for Michigan last year, 36 games, 11 goals, 25 assists for 36 points, which is pretty good, point per game player. Could be a couple years before he makes the NHL. And obviously the big one is Pierre-Luc Dubois. In 62 games, he had 42 goals, 57 assists for 99 points. Most likely will be the first or second line center for this team this year. Should make the team this year for sure. I see him playing that role most of his career. Maybe not just for Columbus, but obviously just in the NHL. And then after him is Oliver Bjorkstrand, who played in the AHL last year, had 17 goals, 12 assists for 29 points in 57 games. He possibly could make this team as well and probably be on the third line. Obviously, Columbus isn't the best team in the league, or probably one of the bottom teams, and so they've had bad contracts. For example, like Clarkson, and Foligno hasn't lived up to his contract. So the more younger players that they get in that can perform will help them with their cap situation. And then one of the very interesting ones is Jonas Korpisalo. He should be the backup this year unless like Bobrovsky falters in the first week or two, or maybe gets hurt. Then Korpisalo could be the starter. He put up some decent numbers. He went 8-2 in the AHL with a .236 and a .913 save percentage. So decent numbers, and he could be a pretty good goaltender in the future for them. Dallas Stars, Julius Honka, in 73 games, had 11 goals, 53 assists, or 33 assists for 44 points. He could be a future top 4 defenseman for this team. Might even make the team this year. And then I've heard a lot about Radek Faksa. A lot of positive things. But very well can make the Stars this year and most likely be on the third line. 28 games, he had 15 goals, 11 assists for 26 points. He could be a pretty good top 6 forward, maybe second line. And then Esa Lindell, also in the AHL, had 73 games. He had 14 goals and 28 assists for 42 points, which is pretty good for a defenseman. So he also can make this team, probably be in the bottom 6 role. So Detroit Red Wings, one of the top prospects that they have is Anthony Mantha. He came into their system really projected to be a really good player because he had that 50-goal junior season. Hasn't really put up very much production in the AHL. Last year in 60 games, he had 21 goals, 24 assists for 45 points, which is pretty decent, but he needs to prove himself this year, or else I don't know if he's going to get a chance in Detroit. They have Evgeny Suchenikov. I know I'm saying that pretty bad. He was playing, I think it was the Western Hockey League or the Q. 50 games, 32 goals, 47 assists for 79 points. He could be a top 9 forward for them. Obviously not this year because they wait and let their prospects develop in the juniors and the AHL. So a couple years from now he could come up. Edmonton Oilers is Jesse Puljujärvi. He played in the Finnish league. 50 games, he had 13 goals, 15 assists for 28 points, which is pretty good considering he's only 18 playing in a men's league, or he was 17 then probably. He was the big surprise moving down. He didn't really move down that much, just like one spot to 4th. He was, beginning of the season, projected 2nd, so it's not that big of a drop. But he could be a very special player, especially playing with Connor McDavid. He's one of the most complete players in this draft, and could easily be a 60 to 70 point player in the NHL. Maybe not next year, but throughout his career, I project him to be right around there. So Griffin Reinhart, who played 30 games last year in the AHL, had 2 goals, 8 assists, and 10 points. They really need him to be that defense that they drafted when they were hoping for, that defense, because in order for this team to take a big step forward, they need better defense, and him and Nurse could really be a big top line or top 4 defense pairing in the future. And then Laurent Brossoit, I can't really say that. He played in the AHL last year, 18 wins, 9 losses, and 3 overtime losses with a 266 goals against average and 920 save percentage. So he's going to be pretty much their future in goal. He should be able to become a starter in the NHL. And then Ethan Bear, which I don't know very much about, but in 69 games, he had 19 goals, 46 assists for 65 points. I believe that was in the OHL or the WHL. It was in the juniors, I know that. That's pretty good for a defenseman. So hopefully he can also turn out to be a stud defenseman. He'd probably be top 4. Maybe be in the last pairing. Not next year, but future years to come. And then Florida Panthers, I don't really know much about their prospects. They have Mike Matheson, who could very well make the team this year because Branson was traded. And last year in the AHL, he played 54 games, had 8 goals, 12 assists for 20 points. He should fit nicely in their 5th or 6th spot. He's probably 5th to 7th spot defenseman. And then Henrik Borgstrom from the Finnish Junior League. In 40 games, he had 29 goals, 26 assists for 55 points. So that's pretty good. Obviously, he's not playing against adults, but still pretty good points. He should probably spend a few years in Europe and then come on over. And then we have the LA Kings, which I also don't know very much about their prospects. There's Cale Clegg. In the Western Hockey League, he played 71 games, had 6 goals, 37 assists for 43 points as a defenseman, which is pretty decent numbers. He should be able to, I'm sure he'll stay in the juniors rank next year, then maybe go to the AHL a couple of years, but within 3 years he might be able to make the LA Kings. And then Adrian Kemp, last year in the AHL he played 55 games, 11 goals, 17 assists for 28 points, which isn't the greatest, but LA is getting a bit older and Gabrick's not producing like he is, so they're going to need some of these young players to step up, and which will maybe have Kemp play in the bottom 6 role this year, just so he gets that experience. So the next team is the Minnesota Wild, and I have Joel Eriksson Ek, who played in the Swedish Elite League, had 9 goals, 6 assists for 15 points in 41 games, which is pretty good for an 18-year-old, or he was probably 17, playing against men. He could come over and be mid-6, so either second or third line in the next couple of years. Alex Tutt, he played for Boston College, 40 games, 18 goals, 16 assists for 34 points. And then Mike Riley, who was really projected to be a pretty good player last year, didn't really pan out, so this year hopefully he takes that step. Probably in the 5th or 6th spot on defense. 45 games, he had 5 goals, 18 assists for 23 points. And last for this list, I have the Montreal Canadiens. So obviously they just drafted Mikhail Sergachev, who possibly could be the best defenseman in the draft of 2016. So obviously they need to get better all aspects of the game except for obviously in net because they have Price. And he might not make it this year, but within the next 2 or 3 years he should be on that team and play a pretty significant role, maybe the top 4. like either the third or fourth defense pairing. Then Mikhail McCarron last year played 58 games, had 17 goals, 21 assists for 38 points. He could get a bottom six role this year, which would probably be what he's playing most of his career. And then Zach Fucale is a wild card. He was pretty hyped when he was drafted, but hasn't really panned out too much. Last year in the AHL, he had 16 wins, 19 losses, and 4 overtime losses with a .313 goals against average and .903 save percentage. So obviously those numbers aren't stellar at all. So hopefully he can turn things around and be their backup within the next 2 or 3 years. Obviously this year he's not going to be the backup, so maybe next year or the year after. But just let me know what prospects I missed, because I probably missed quite a bit. Obviously I don't know all these teams' prospects. I would know their NHL teams, just not their prospects. So yeah, just like, comment, and subscribe, and have a nice day.